Alright, hey guys, I completely forgot about showing you guys the dissections that are here in Anatomy TV when I finished the previous video. So this video should be short. It's a continuation of the last video that I just posted. Just pointing out some different structures that we need to know on the actual dissections that are listed in Anatomy TV. So I'm going to go through just a few. Pretty sure there's only like five or six, and there's only like two or three structures that you can actually see that you need to know in each one. So it should be rather quick. To start off, we can look at the dissection of the male reproductive organs up top here. And I'll zoom in so we can see it better. Alright, so there's not many things that you can see here. Of course, you can see psoas major, right? Psoas major. Um, you can also see the common iliac artery, right? Common iliac artery. And then you can see external iliac here, external iliac artery. Here, this is one thing that's good to see, obturator nerve going through the obturator foramen. You can also see the internal iliac. I said that. You can also see the rectum here, right? The sigmoid colon turning into the rectum, right? So this is the last part of the colon, the sigmoid colon, right, which turns into the rectum, right? Um, you can also see the inguinal ligament. Right, you can see the penis here on the bottom. For next week, femoral artery. Don't worry about that now in terms of seeing it in the femoral triangle, but you needed to know femoral vein, right? You can see the femoral veins, so make sure you know that. You can also see the femoral nerve here, femoral vein. Right, I would say that's about it for the most part. You can see the ureter here going to the urinary bladder, which makes sense. And also the ductus deferens, right? Ductus deferens, right, is from the epididymis, right, all the way to the posterior of the bladder, right? Right, and it joins the seminal vesicle to form the ejaculatory duct, which enters into the prostatic urethra. Right, now that we have that, we can move forward to this male dissection of the perineum. If I press perineum here, zoom in, let's see the image bigger. Wow, that's a lot bigger than I wanted to, but here we can see, all right, we can see the penis on the top, the corpus spongiosum, right? Spongiosum is in the bottom, on the bottom, right? Corpus cavernosum would be the two on the top. We're looking at to the perineum inferiorly, so it makes sense why we're seeing the spongiosum and not the cavernosum. We can also see the anal canal, right? Last portion of the large intestine. We can also see coccygeus. Right? We can also see coccygeus. And then above that, we see levator ani, right? Levator ani, it's lifting up the rectum. Um, levator ani. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about any other structures here. Anything else is accessory for you guys. Yeah. So just remember anal canal, coccygeus, and levator ani. When you guys are looking at coccygeus and levator ani, this isn't how they're going to look because you guys are looking at it from a more superior view. This is a lot more inferior. So don't worry about it, right? Coccygeus will have that little white film over it, whereas levator ani would look more like a muscle, would have more of those striations, where coccygeus just has that white film with those striations right in the bottom of the pelvic floor. Right, so that is that dissection. Let me see if there's any more that would be helpful to you guys. I mean, this one we went over already, but I can just run through it real quick. Well, actually, no. This is more week 3. We can go through this one here. Are these two the same thing? Yeah, this one right here. Okay. Didn't we just go to this one? Yeah. So we just went through that one. We just went through that one. We didn't do this one. That's what it was. Okay. Okay. So we see. Okay. So this is an image of the male pelvis, right? We see the penis here, right? And we see the prepuce, right? This is the prepuce. This is what it looks like, the foreskin. Whereas this would be the glans penis, the head, right? So that's what I was trying to show in the previous image of the 3D male penis. But this one is an actual dissection, and it shows the difference between the glans penis, which is right here, the head, whereas the prepuce is the foreskin. We can see that here. So I thought that was a good image to show you guys. Right? We have the scrotum here. We see the testis, and then we see the epididymis. Right? This is the epididymis. Just this part right here, right on top of the testis, is the epididymis, and it turns into the vas deferens. We can't really see the vas deferens here, so I wouldn't worry about that. We can't see the vas deferens. So right, so just the testis here, and then the epididymis, and then you can see the glands of the penis, and then the prepuce. Right, everything else is you definitely don't need to worry about that. So, okay, so that, I'm pretty sure that's it for all of the male anatomy. So we're gonna look at the female anatomy, and then we're going to move forward. I'm pretty sure that'll be it. So just give me a second to get that up. All right, here we go. So there's only a few things I really want to show you guys. They don't have too many things you need to know with these dissections, but they do have some things I do think are helpful. So the first dissection that we will start off with is this image of the lumbar plexus. We're only going to see two structures here, so don't worry about all the nerves. There's only like two or three I want to show you. So the first thing I want to show you is iliacus, right? You can see this big muscle right along the iliacus, right on top of the ilium. We can also see quadratus lumborum, right? Quadratus lumborum. And we can also see obturator nerve as well. Where is it? Right. I just saw it. There we go. Obturator nerve. Right. So if this is our ilium, right? So looking at the bones, if this is our ilium, right? Our obturator foramen would have to be somewhere over here, right? And we can tell this isn't our obturator nerve because it's one of the biggest nerves here, right? So this has to be the femoral nerve, right? The femoral nerve is going to go into the femoral triangle in the anterior medial part of the thigh, right? So this would be your obturator nerve. Then you have your transverse abdominis. Don't worry about that, right? So really just these four structures. So you can see your femoral nerve, right? So this is similar to what you see in the plastinated pelvis, right? As well as the donors. You can see our femoral nerve, right? One of the branches of the lumbar plexus. And we can also see our obturator nerve. You can't really quite see the obturator foramen or the obturator internus, so don't worry about that, but I just want to show you a good image of it. Yeah, just iliacus, right? That's really all you guys need to know with this image here. Okay. Another dissection I want to show you is the uterus and the ovaries we have here. So thought this was a good dissection. You can see a few different structures, right? So first thing I want to mention is um, this structure here, right? This is the large intestine, the rectum, right? So this would be the rectum here, right? Our rectum, right? So it makes sense when you're seeing the rectum, that structure most posterior, right? It makes sense, right? And then you're seeing your vagina if we're looking all the way in the bottom. So let's say when we're looking at the cross sections, you're seeing your anal canal, your rectum, and then you're seeing your vagina, and then you're seeing your urethra, right? And it makes sense because we have our rectum turning into our anal canal. This is the fundus of the uterus, right? Once we go from the fundus, we go to the body, and then we go to the cervix, and then the vagina, right? And then here we have a urinary bladder. From our urinary bladder, we go to our urethra, right? So when we're seeing the cuts on the cross sections, it makes sense that you're seeing the certain structures in that order because look, this is how they're positioned from posterior to anterior, right? So we have our rectum, we have the fundus of the uterus or the top, we have the uterine tube or the fallopian tube, right? These are what ovaries look like, right? These are ovaries, right? Ovaries, right? You would usually be able to see the fimbriae as well, but you can't see that here. Right, broad ligament, right? This is a broad ligament here, broad ligament here, right? So this is a broad ligament. And then our round ligament is right here. So this is our round ligament. So round ligament, and it's not the same over here. So round ligament. There we go. Okay. So round ligament, round ligament. This is our broad ligament. This is our broad ligament here. It's a broad ligament, round ligament, round ligament. This is our broad ligament here. Okay. And our bladder would be situated here, but you can't really see it that well. Okay, so now that we have all of those structures, we're going to move on to the image of the bones in the pelvic region. All right, so it says pelvic ligaments, sagittal section. Just want to show you a couple things. First thing I want to show you is the vertebral levels, right? So here we see the sacrum, right? Sacrum, which goes into the coccyx, right? This is the coccyx, right? Right here is the coccyx, and then this is the sacrum. Right. Okay. Right. Right. This whole thing will be the sacrum. And some of the borders that I want to show you is the greater sciatic notch, right here. Greater sciatic notch. The lesser sciatic notch here, right? This would be where your obturator foramen is, right? This is obturator membrane, but this would be where your obturator foramen is, right? There's a membrane, right, in the foramen, but this is the general region of your obturator foramen. This is in your inguinal ligament, right? This is where you would find the ilium, right? This is the iliac fossa, right? So your ilium would be situated here. This is where your pubis would be. This is the interpubic disc. But for your purposes, just know this as pubic symphysis, right? Pubic symphysis. Right, and you guys will need to know sacrotuberous ligament next week, but don't worry about that for right now. Right, and that's about it. That's everything for the dissections that I wanted to show you guys. I hope these were helpful in actually seeing how some donors look like with these structures, because I know some structures we can't see in lab, so I know I was able to show you some structures that you couldn't see in lab, so I hope they were helpful. And again, good luck on your exam, and I hope these videos are helpful in your studying.